The people of Israel had a life-altering decision to make. Would they follow the advice of the 10, or would they follow Caleb's advice? They made their decision quite clear when they began discussing stoning Caleb and Joshua, who had now officially sided with Caleb. God would have destroyed the Israelites right then and there if not for Moses coming to the rescue, pleading with God to forgive them. God listened to the prayer of Moses and relented from instantly destroying the Israelites, but there was a steep price to pay for their rejection of God's promises. With the exception of Caleb and Joshua, not one single person who was at least 20 years of age at the time of the scouts' report would enter the Promised Land. God declared that the Israelites would wander and suffer in the wilderness for 40 years until they died in the desert. The Israelites immediately realized they had made the wrong decision. The curse from God which they had brought upon themselves was a horrifying fate. They tried their hardest to take their decision back and decided they would now fight the enemy and conquer the inhabitants of the Promised Land. They completely ignored Moses when he warned them it was too late, that their fate had already been sealed. They charged into battle anyways, but were quickly defeated. Again, I see in this story an analogy almost jumping off the pages at us today. Like the Israelites, we are momentarily camped just outside the Promised Land with a life-altering decision to make. Will we believe in God's promise of an eternal home and live our life on earth as sojourners, allowing our hearts and souls to yearn for a better country? Or will we attempt to establish our home on this earth? As long as we draw breath, we have the opportunity to make the decision. It is never too late while we live on this earth to apply, with guaranteed acceptance, for citizenship in heaven. However, and this is one of the most important howevers you will ever hear, there is a point of no return. When confronted with their punishment, Israel immediately wished for the opportunity to make the right choice, but the opportunity was gone. Decisions have consequences, and sometimes the consequences are etched eternally in stone. Right now, we have a decision to make. Will we build our home in this life or in the life to come? And if, when you leave this earth behind and glimpse your eternal destiny, and realize you have chosen the wrong country to make your home, your unchangeable fate will be even worse than that of the distrusting Israelites. In the case of the Israelites, at least their physical bodies, exhausted and unable to take another step, fell in the wilderness and were buried beneath the shifting sands. But for those who have rejected God's promise of an eternal home, for those whose citizenship was on earth instead of heaven, for those who wagered that God's promises were fairy tales and folklore, there will be no end to their suffering. They will wander in the wilderness far away from paradise, from Eden, from that garden in the east, from God's presence, from home, for all eternity.